So my name is Robin Rowe. I'm one of the directors of product management. I lead our Ivanti Neurons for DEX. And joining me today is Emma Dixon, who's one of our superstar product managers over on the ITSM product line. So what have we got in store today? So this next session is putting Ivanti Neurons for ITSM into Hyperdrive. And really what we're going to be talking about today is the integration potential in terms of how our DEX platform can turbocharge the ITSM experience today. So when we talk about the DEX platform, what are we talking about? Well, DEX, of course, digital experience management, is a strategy, and that strategy is supported by DEX tools. Now, in our case, our DEX capability is comprised of our discovery capability, and we'll talk a bit more about discovery as we go in, but that's really the ability to, of course, go and not only discover assets and software, but also the inventory, the integration into third parties, the normalization and reconciliation piece. We have the workspace component, and the workspace is really the companion to the analyst. So think about that second monitor experience, that consolidation of tool sets, the ability to go and solve identity and device level issues within the console. And it's our healing capabilities, which is the ability to set desired state at scale, be it software distribution, but specifically also our bots capabilities to go and self-heal at scale, as well as our machine learning lab, which also powers the ticket classification capabilities that we can bring to ITSM as well. Now, one of the primary focuses of today's session is really looking at how the pairing of these technologies together can drive a lot of the outcomes that we strive to reach and we care about in the service world. So thinking about things like reducing the number of incidents that are coming in, improving the level 1 resolution rate, reducing the mean time to resolution, decreasing the number of escalations, driving improvements in the CSAT. But so really kicking things off, really wanted to talk about the scope and remit of the DEX management tools and really the overlap and how that works side by side with the service desk. So initially, this is quite a busy graphic, and you may have seen us talking to this graphic in one or two of the other sessions as well. But really, if we can think of the service management world as really being a subset of the overarching digital experience that a user has. And really our philosophy when it comes to digital experience management is it's really important to have an emphasis on the remediation or preventative side of issues. So when we think holistically about what digital experience management is, it is really that ability to discover, to understand, to measure. So of course, an important constituent part of DEX is that scoring, that benchmark, which we will talk about in a bit more depth. But it's also the ability to manage, to monitor, to prevent. And so really our philosophy, typically you'll hear about the shift left to automation being maybe phrased as level 0. And I guess our view is that it's a bit more nuanced than that, in that there's almost multiple levels of automation that you can apply. So if you kind of start from left to right and you think about the life cycle of an issue, bearing in mind that with DEX, we're not just interested in issues that hit the service desk, we're also interested in anything that causes digital friction to the end user, causes them to be unproductive, causes them to have a security incident. And numerically, that is around between 3 and 4 per day on average. And so if we want to drive improvements to that, by default, we're also going to impact those key service test metrics that we spoke about before. So in a nutshell, we can package the functionalities that we bring in terms of inoculation or desired state enforcement. So think of this as setting experience and security cyber hygiene guardrails to limit the cross-section or potential for issues to impact that end user. So the technologies there are going to be, of course, bots. But we also have UWM, patch, MDM, software distribution. All of those capabilities are also available on the Neurons side as well, which are going to work together in terms of setting user up success when it comes to the digital experience. But then we have preventative maintenance. These are going to be things that are running behind the scenes at scales, which are going to deal with things before they become symptomatic to the end user. So things like low disk space, things like that. And then we have proactive automation, and this is really all about surveys, outreach, being able to check in with the user and measure more facets of the digital experience than we would typically measure purely in the service world. In the service world, of course, we're going to be doing post-instance surveys and getting a measure of the CSAT and things like that, whereas the actual depth and breadth of the digital experience that our users are using, the different applications they use, the devices they use, DEX provides a tool set to be able to look more broadly across it and get user touch points at a more regular cadence through the omnichannel. And then we have self-heal capabilities. This is when something's gone wrong, being able to identify that, being able to resolve it, and reduce the need necessarily for that user to go and create a ticket. But the other important aspect and the other item there, which we'll touch on in a moment, is really the ability to self-heal. The ability to, when we can't necessarily self-heal an issue, or maybe we can self-heal it, but we need the user's permission, being able to interact with the user, but then also being able to have a seamless integration through to the service desk. So even if we can't fix it, or we can fix it, but we want to track the action we've taken, either via an event, via a ticket, being able to perform diagnostics and package those up in a ticket, we can start to think about, in the service desk world, how we're going to accelerate the remediation of that. And that's really where that tie into the self-service desk and the tool sets for an analyst acceleration comes in. And in the second part of this session, Emma's going to talk specifically around the ITSM integration of these capabilities from a DEX score, from an automation perspective. Okay, so before we jump in and just have a look, a quick tour at some of those features from a product perspective on the Neurons for DEX side, just touching very quickly on discovery. Discovery is an important foundational part, whether you're looking at it from a service management perspective, whether you're looking at it from a security perspective or device management. It really all starts with discovery, knowing what's out there, knowing what the devices are. And of course, the key use case from an ITSM perspective is going to be that CMDB integration. So of course, if you've got an accurate CMDB that comprises the key information from across your different systems, it's been normalized, it's been reconciled, it's going to be accurate, it's going to be detailed, it's going to be up to date, and put you in the best position to support the users in the best way as possible. But it's also going to be that foundational layer to start to overlay that real-time operational, that edge intelligence, that ability to see the up to the second information that's so important when you're troubleshooting devices. Now, once we have this ingress of telemetry data coming in, then really this is where the DEX score comes in, because this is using AI and machine learning to be able to surface up those key insights. And from an analyst perspective, it is going to be really important because we're looking at different domains to build up that overall picture. And when we talk about domains, we're talking about the device health. We're doing anomaly detection to look at things like the CPU usage, disk space consumption, memory. We're looking at the security posture of the device. We're looking, hey, if the antivirus enabled, has it had a recent security scan? But we're also looking at the application stability as well, of an abnormal number of crashes that are happening. But another key element of it is a service experience. So we actually take the context from a service management perspective, the number of incidents that have occurred, the severity of those incidents, the priority. We also do sentiment analysis on those incidents, and that comprises into this score as well. And so when we move on after this section, Emma's going to show those digital experience scores from an ITSM perspective, but just know that that's what the makeup is of those parts under the hood. So before we hand over to Emma, I'm just going to jump out and just show a couple of areas in the product. So this is the Neurons platform, and really the homepage here, you will have seen this in Sri's keynote yesterday, is really where the information comes together. So we're seeing the discovery information, we're seeing the information that's been pulled in and reconciled across the different sources, the different highlights. We can also see the DEX score in here as well. So we can go in and we can explore devices that are critical, but you can also see that roll up of the device scores, the security score, the app score, and the service score. And in fact, if I go and look, for example, with this particular device that's got a poor DEX score, this CI has got multiple incidents that have been raised against it. Incidents have been raised for a long time. There's negative sentiment, and all of that has contributed to this user having the poor DEX score. And the service aspects have by far the biggest weighting on the DEX score because they're taking into account that user's experience. So very quickly, I did just want to show a couple of things here before I hand over. And one is going to be going into the device view for this particular user. So one of the things that Emma's going to cover is really that integration from an automation perspective, from a service management But first, it's important to understand from a bot's perspective, what does that view look like in the product from an analyst today? So I'm going to show a couple of things here. So we have the concept of these one-click bots, and these one-click bots or custom actions are behind the scenes. They're fully sequenced multiple step bots, so very powerful. But from an analyst perspective, they can see that as a single bot that they can go and launch. So in this particular case, I'm going to launch one that can go and uninstall software from the device. Now, you've got the ability to go and pass information into that bot. So that might be a free text field. It might be something where you just want to have a communication with the user and send a Teams message. It might be something where you're going collecting diagnostic data. In this particular case, maybe I want to uninstall an application so I can go and run. But the other part of it is, as well as being able to give you an overall success and fail status, it can also curate specific information and bring that relevant information back to the analyst. So I'm showing this experience here from a Neurons perspective, because as we bring this capability across to service management, know that we'll be able to provide that similar experience as well. So another example might be running diagnostics. You want to run a diagnostic on the network. Well, what area is it? Is it reachability? Is it performance? So again, being able to pass the context in, you can have a fairly straightforward bot that is able to perform different things based on the information that's passed in. You want to map a network drive. What's the drive letter that you want to map? Okay, so that's really the what we call the workspace component of healing. So again, the other aspects we have in here in workspace, we have that task manager-like experience, we have the remote control, we have the ability to go in and perform network diagnostics interactively. So again, that full suite of companion components that can help accelerate the troubleshooting of an incident from a level 1 perspective, as well as all of the identity pieces as well. Now, if we go to the bots experience, again, just having a look at this, this is where you go into the bots experience. You can go in and you can create a bot. We have a growing list of out-the-box templates, which are constantly being added to within here. So from a human trigger perspective, these are some of the common things that an analyst might be doing to troubleshoot. So things like resetting a print spooler, performing diagnostics, and rebuilding profiles and things of that kind of ilk as well. Now, the other powerful component, as I mentioned, is the ability to go and interact from a service management perspective. So I'm going to show one final demo here before I hand over. So if I go to this bot here, I'm going to show you the interface. Now, the bot's interface, one of the core value props around it is how easy it is to build out these different these different capabilities. So you have queries where you can go and find a huge amount of information about from the bot, which is powered by our edge intelligence, our sensor capability. We have actions, the ability to go out and manipulate files, be able to manipulate registry, stop services, manipulate Windows firewall, all of the common things an analyst is going to be able to do. You can also, again, do interactions with the user, leverage scripts, PowerShells, and things like that. And so really, if you think about typically what we're doing on a service desk from a level 2, level 3 perspective, from a shift left, is typically it's going to be creating knowledge articles, which of course is great, powerful. But you can also, because of the ease of use of this tool set, we can also think, well, how are we going to stop this issue from occurring again? How can we accelerate it with automation? And because this interface is easy to use, we find a lot of organizations are actually empowering their service desk to go and create these as a supplementary, or even replacing the need for creating a knowledge article if you've got the ability to prevent an issue from happening again. So with that said, you can go in, you can click on these stages, explore what's happening in here. But very quickly, I'm just going to run this, just keeping an eye on the clock here. And I'm going to go and run this bot. So as it's running, I'm going to explain what it's going to do. So what we're going to do with this bot is we're going to run a free disk space check on the device. If the device hasn't got enough free disk space, which it's not going to have because this first action is putting a really big file on the device, then we're going to create a ticket for the user. Now, our ticket creation is a seamless link. It's got dedupe built in. It's going to automatically link the CI. It's going to create it in the context of the affected user. It's got the ability to pass all of the variables in. It's going to take into account any customized fields on that default form. It's also going to create an ITSM event. It's going to log it as an outage in this case. It's going to have an interaction with the end user. You actually just saw the Teams message come in. End user's got a notification coming up saying we've identified a low disk space condition. We've automatically created a ticket. Someone will reach out and help you. Here's a ticket reference if you need to talk about it, but we can fix it automatically. would you like to attempt to fix? I can click yes, please. It's going to pass that context in because maybe I need to do something more powerful. You can follow the flow of this bot as it's going down. You can see here now it's removing the big file in there, doing a disk cleanup. It's doing another assessment of the disk space. It's going to follow up with the user and say, look, we've been able to fix it. And it's going to update that ITSM ticket. The user's going to get a follow-up message in there to say, hey, it's great. We've been able to, issue's been resolved. We've replaced that message card. And we've got a deep link there into both the ITSM ticket and the events are able to come in. We can open that up in ITSM. And we can see all of the details that have been put in. We can see the ticket was created. It was able to manage the full life cycle of the ticket, moved from a new state to a resolved state, and it's been able to put the resolution notes in there that we performed an automated disk cleanup. So that's just a showcase to show some of those additional areas in addition to what Emma's going to show in terms of how those capabilities come back together. So with that said, I'm going to hand over to Emma to talk through the second part of the presentation from the ITSM view of the world. Over to you, Emma.
Yeah, as Robin said, I'm going to take you through some of the concepts that he's discussed, but from the ITSM side and what those integrations may look like and what our plans are for the future. So taking a look at DEX to begin with, within ITSM, there are two ways currently which you can view DEX scores. The first is either by individual asset or by customer. And today, during the session, I thought we could take a look at the customer DEX score journey. As I said, from an ITSM perspective, in showcasing the functionality, which was actually introduced earlier this year as part of our 23.2 release. So the purpose of this enhancement, or rather one of the most common use cases for this, would be to allow your service desk analysts to determine the ticket priority based on the DEX score, which, as Robin said, is made up of many things, but calculated using a curated set of indicators, hybrid machine learning, and statistical models. So a lot of this may be familiar to you, but for example, a low DEX score, as you would assume, does suggest that there are issues that need attention and resolution, whereas a high DEX score indicates that the devices are generally functioning as expected. So in a moment, we will take a look into ITSM itself, and show you how those integrations appear within the system, and how they can, how they are visualized to those working within the service desk to help people effectively prioritize their work. Now, there is some integration and configuration required in order to have the DEX score capability visible. But for the purpose of time today, I am purely showing the end result of those configurations being in place. We can take a look at how the customer DEX score is presented. And essentially it enables the opportunity to automate tasks, provide proactive support, and ultimately speed up the ticket response process, amongst many of the other opportunities that Robin mentioned. So the DEX score, again, as you've seen, is calculated at the neurons level, which you can currently see on screen. Obviously, we are taking the customer score lens, and it is imported into ITSM. The score is visually represented with a color coding alongside that numerical value. And the color coding is fairly simple: 0 to 2 warning indicators in green. If there are 3 to 4 warning indicators, that would be visible in yellow, and anything above 5 plus would show in red. Now, as I've mentioned, we've already completed our integration piece with Neurons through the data import connection process in ITSM. So it's already imported the device information along with the corresponding user information into the system. And this allows us to see the imported data on both the employee and the instant workspaces. So the current view that you can see now is our employee workspace. And as you can see, we have multiple users with the DEX score present in the column on the right-hand side. And again, different colors there, just as that warning indicator that I previously referenced. What we're going to do, we're going to pick on a particular user and cross-check with the Neurons platform again, just to make sure that the DEX score has imported over correctly. So in this example, we're going to pick Andrew when it scrolls up. And again, it's just a sanity check to make sure and to show that the kind of integration between both systems. So we click on that, we can go back into Neurons and search for Andrew accordingly. And we can see that the DEX score is correctly pulling through across both platforms. So back into ITSM, if we click on Andrew's name and open the form view, we can once again see the DEX score visible as a touch point there. And then again, if we go back to the incident list view, we can see the DEX score visible prior to the configuration we've already put in place. Opening any incident and then perhaps assigning the ticket to Andrew, we should be able to then see the DEX score once again be prompted to be displayed as per the integration. So as you can see, there are opportunities to have that DEX score visible throughout the product. There are touch points there for users such as your service desk analysts to see these at various opportunities, providing the chance and the opportunity for organizations to provide a really good employee digital experience. And this is just one of the many ways that we can leverage the Neurons and ITSM products together to improve that digital experience. One of the next themes related to DEX, kind of moving on, and Robin referenced this as well, was the ability to self-diagnose and self-heal using the neuron bots. We wanted to continue the integration of this into ITSM, leveraging the bots experience. And this is something that we are directly working on at the moment. By adding this functionality, we expect users to be able to do the following. So run predefined neuron bots directly from ITSM. So this could be for an analyst, either from an incident or service request. For self-service, for example, that could be a request offering or a knowledge article. We then expect users to be able to configure a quick action to run a defined bots workflow from your ITSM workspace, passing through the required data using expressions and variables when needed. So previously with this workflow, there is self-heal capability present with the previous bots experience. And the existing workflow, the method would be that you would create your incident, you would select the customer's current device, and then you would have a menu present a list of the available bots, and this would be based on keywords. So the keywords input by the analyst at the time, that would then generate a list of the bots available. What we're looking to do with the new integration that we're working on is looking to really expand on that to enable at that menu level to enable all bots to be visible so that the analyst can browse and select the bot that they required rather than have to rely on their knowledge of certain keywords for the bot they need to become visible. And lastly, we expect users to be able to use the Neurons API to trigger the bots in real time. So as I mentioned, this integration is currently underway. We are currently working out a short proof of concept for this, which is nearing completion, and we've made good success with that. And our next plan is to then continue development of this feature, ready for release hopefully early next year. We are expanding on our use cases. Obviously, we've mentioned the key concepts there of what we hope to achieve, but we have got some good dialogue with some existing customers. And much like Sir Judd mentioned earlier, if anyone is interested in working with us on this, then we would definitely be interested in connecting. But yeah, a lot of exciting things happening with DEX, with bots, with integrating the neurons into ITSM. And I really look forward to seeing your feedback when this all comes to fruition. I just wanted to take a pause and highlight our new solution packages that are available. These will allow you to take advantage of all the great capabilities that myself and Robin have discussed so far, including the discovery, DEX, and bots capabilities. So if you are interested in any of the packages, then I do recommend reaching out to discuss this with your account representative. And then lastly, we would be delighted if you could take the time to leave a review for Ivanti Neurons for Discovery at the Gartner Peer Insights. You will be asked for your name and company, but they will be anonymous on the review. and it shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes to complete. So thank you in advance for your time if you choose to do so for that.